So I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming first. I know there's been a lot circulating in the media regarding Thomas Villanueva, obviously Officer Flick, and the events surrounding this. There are a lot of questions out there, and I'm hoping today that we can help set the record straight. I prepared a few things here in a statement that I'd like to make first, because I think it'll answer a lot of questions and provide a lot of the information that you all would like. And then if you have questions after that, I'm happy to answer those as well. As many of you know, today, February 5th, 2019, marks the one-year anniversary of the death of Officer Micah Flick and the paralysis of our client, Thomas Villanueva. This is a very sad day. It's a sad day for Colorado. It's a sad day for families, but it's a day that we can all have compassion for a fallen officer. We can have compassion for wounded officers, and we can also have compassion for a 29-year-old man who's been paralyzed through no fault of his own. These individuals all suffered these injuries in the same event when officers of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Springs Police Department, and the Colorado State Patrol attempted to take down a car thief. It's literally called a takedown. The officers that did this are part of what they call the battle team. These officers are from 3 different governmental agencies. They do not work together on a regular basis, and they do not train together. Yet they were directed to execute this tragic event. There have been a lot of mistruths and unfair statements circulating regarding the events of February 5th, 2018. This is in a large part because no information was provided, no investigation results released to any parties until August 21st, 2018. That's more than 6.5 months after this event occurred. Victims, their families, and the public sat by waiting months and months for answers. My colleagues, Brian Calandra, Russell Araya, who are working on this case, along with several other attorneys in our firm, Rebecca Stern, Colleen Calandra, and Scott Hooper, probed and probed. 6.5 months of silence. This is important to know because the Colorado Governmental Immunity Statute is such that allows a very short time period to bring a claim. In many cases, 6 months or 180 days in order to have a claim filed. In this case, it took the various governmental agencies over 6 months just to release their version of events. These events occurred in less than a minute. They involved 11 officers and Thomas Villanueva, but we waited 6.5 months to hear anything. Why such a delay? This delay forced our law firm to bring a claim on behalf of Mr. Villanueva to preserve his rights while we waited to better understand what happened on that day. Worse yet, the results of the investigation have now left more questions than they have answers. Further misconceptions have only been magnified, and I'd like to clarify some of those for you today. First, and very importantly, Thomas Villanueva did not walk into the middle of a crime scene or a gunfight. Some people have said Thomas was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others have said this was just bad luck. It was neither. The truth is that Thomas Villanueva was walking home on his lunch break, like many people here in Colorado probably do on any given day. It was the middle of the day. He was on his lunch break, and he was in front of his home. Unbeknownst to Thomas, though, he was in the middle of a bunch of undercover police officers, all in plain clothes, all completely unidentifiable as police officers. Worse yet, Thomas walked along the road leading into his apartment complex for some distance and some amount of time, right there with these officers. No one said a thing. Thomas had no idea they were about to do the takedown of a suspect. They looked at Thomas several times. They never said a word. The police investigation shows that the officers saw Thomas. He was in the officer's operational perimeter for a substantial amount of time. Yet the decision was made to keep him there as they went forward with their operation. It's very important for people to understand, very important to understand, that there was no sense of urgency. Absolutely no sense of urgency in this case, that a takedown had to occur at that specific moment. The car thief wasn't posing an immediate threat of harm. In fact, he completed his crime days earlier. These officers, the battle team, were not responding to an immediate threat. They've been following and tracking this car all day long. We believe that department policy should not create risks and dangers for the public and for innocent bystanders like Thomas Villanueva. Thomas had no way of knowing that a deadly situation was about to unfold, that he was kept inside this operational perimeter, this zone of danger, and that there were undercover officers on the scene. The next thing Thomas knew, he was laying on the ground paralyzed. The second mistruth that I think needs to be clarified is that Thomas Villanueva is not after the police officers who were part of this event. This is absolutely not true, and this has been circulating, and I can tell you that it's very damaging to this young man. Thomas simply wants the governmental agencies responsible for his paralysis to stand up and treat him as they would any officer who had been paralyzed. This mistruth that he's after the police officers, I can tell you where it came from. It came from a complaint that our law firm filed. We filed a complaint that named the officers as well as the governmental police agencies. The complaint was filed that way because under Colorado law, it had to be. Otherwise, Thomas may have lost his ability to get any assistance because he failed to name all parties involved. This forced Thomas to name everyone while additional facts are being sorted out. Thomas has asked the government, though, to accept responsibility so that individual officers involved may be immediately released. That is his wishes. The third misconception is that Thomas is just after money. If you look at any of the social blogs and posts going around, it's pretty sad. They accuse Thomas of being after money and greedy lawyers as being involved. In fact, Thomas has already started to receive hate mails, and this accusation, again, just couldn't be farther from the truth. The truth is that Thomas has only asked the governmental agencies involved to treat him fairly. As I said, to provide him the same benefits that they would provide any officer who had fallen and been paralyzed in an event like this. That's what Thomas asked for. What was he told? What was an innocent citizen told? He was told no. They refused. They've offered Thomas nothing. Government should take care of their citizens when they cause them devastating injuries. Please remember, in ending, Thomas Villanueva is a 29-year-old man who will never walk again. He must use a catheter to urinate. He must have the assistance of a lift like you would use to lift a car engine up, just to get into his bed. He no longer can live independently. He now lives with his parents. They're trying to figure out how they're going to modify their home, door entries, bathrooms, the kitchen, just to meet basic needs. All this for a young man who was simply on his lunch break, in front of his home, in broad daylight, and surrounded by the very police officers who are charged with keeping our citizens safe. Yet Thomas ends up paralyzed. His life changed forever. How does this happen? I can't imagine any Colorado family who have put in a similar position will not have some serious questions as to how this occurred. Who would not demand answers if they or their family member were placed in a zone of danger by a system, the very system that was meant to protect them?